So, hi and welcome to Women Unlimited TV. Today I have with me the amazing Julia Cameron, the author of the book on creativity, The Artist's Way. Now, I've got a very old copy here. I haven't got the most recent one because, Julia, I read your book probably about 15, 20 years ago.
Yes, it's 20 years old.
And it's still being read today. I mean, it is really the defining book for anybody that's interested in exploring their creativity.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's truly fantastic. And people find it quite life-changing. But you still run live courses around this, don't you?
Yes, I live in Santa Fe, and I teach every Sunday at Unity Church in Santa Fe. Except when I'm in London, teaching in London.
So I want to just talk a little bit around this idea of creativity, because, I mean, in your book, it starts out as a very personal journey, doesn't it? To where you came to with The Artist's Way.
Yes, I think so. It starts out personal so that people can identify with it, and then it goes into teaching.
So what was it where did your inspiration for the book come from?
Well, I want to say it came because I fell in love with a blocked writer. And I thought he's a wonderful writer, he's just not writing. And so I sort of wrote the book to him. I later married him. And I wrote the book to him and to my friends who were blocked. I thought when I wrote it that I was probably writing it for 15 people. And as it turns out, it has a much wider appeal.
Well, the number 4 million readers has been bandied about, which is quite phenomenal.
Yes, I think that's probably a pretty accurate number.
Amazing. So, on your own experience, you talk about when you first started trying to overcome some of your own blocks. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I was never blocked as a writer, but I found that I wrote with difficulty. I sort of wrote uphill.
Right.
I was always trying to be brilliant and have a brilliant career, and I found that I needed to find a way to write more freely. And what happened was I was writing and drinking.
Ah.
And the two don't really go together. Although we have a lot of mythology around writers as alcoholics. And the idea that you become more free through alcohol, but what happens actually is that it opens a window and then slams it shut. So I needed to learn a way to write that didn't have to do with alcohol and didn't have to do with ego. And so I started trying to write more as I don't like the term channel, but that was what it boiled down to be an open tool for writing to move through me.
Interesting.
Does that sound clear?
Yeah, so what you're saying is from wherever you just kind of opened yourself up to write rather than trying to control the writing?
Yes.
And that then developed into your idea of morning pages, is that correct?
Yes, morning pages were something that I invented, and I didn't realize how effective they would be. I thought they were just unblocking me. But then I went to New York and taught my first unblocking class and gave them morning pages and found out morning pages work for everyone.
Do you just want to quickly explain what morning pages are for those that aren't familiar?
Sure. Morning pages are 3 pages of longhand morning writing about absolutely anything. So they're sort of the Western version of meditation. Instead of spending 20 minutes sitting there doing nothing and watching our thoughts, we now spend 20 minutes writing our thoughts down.
And that has the benefit of just releasing all the stuff that's inside.
Yes, it releases what's inside, but it also does something very important, which is that it miniaturizes your sensor. You know, your sensor is that sort of negative voice that says to you, oh, no one's going to like this, or you're too petty, or how can you be bringing that up, that's so negative. And what happens with morning pages is there's no wrong way to do them. So you are in effect saying to your sensor, thank you for sharing, but I'll just keep going with my pages. And that becomes a portable skill. You've trained your sensor to stand to one side. So when you try to move onto the page or onto the middle of the stage, anytime you're sort of stepping into the limelight, you can say to your sensor, stand aside, and the sensor does.
Then you can move on and move through whatever is holding you back.
Yes.
Once you do that, do you become free? Does it release you completely from that?
No, the sensor survives.
Sadly.
I had a recent experience. I just finished a book about the fear of flying. And as I was writing it, my censor, whom I have named Nigel kept saying negative things to me. Oh, this is so boring. Oh, no one's going to identify. Oh, you're stuck. And I listened to Nigel to my regret. I found myself feeling maybe the book isn't any good. And then I turned the book in and they said, it's wonderful. And I thought, well, see, Nigel almost convinced me to scrap it.
It's interesting. It's interesting that even now that's still part of your experience in the writing. So I guess it's kind of something we're just going to all have to learn to live with and push past.
Yes, people sometimes come to me wanting to be taught how to be fearless. And what I can do is teach them how to move past their fear. But I can't make the fear go away.
No, I suppose it's always going to find its way of coming up, isn't it? Now, you have something quite interesting when you talk about morning pages, and you talk about this resistance and what that means. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Talking about resistance?
Yeah, resistance. Pages? When you resist doing the morning pages.
Well, I don't feel that I do much to help people who have resistance. I think that my tools are for people who want them.
Right.
So I don't try and convince people that they should try them. I sort of let them try the pages and see for themselves.
Now, your book is called The Artist's Way. How do you define artist?
I don't.
Ah.
And I think it's a book that works for business people as well as for declared artists. I believe everybody is creative, and the artist's way is sort of talking to a lineage, if you will. For hundreds of years, artists have said, straight away the ideas flew into me direct from God. And nowadays we don't say things come to us direct from God. but that's actually the artist's experience of inspiration or the muse, that it is a higher power that is striving to find expression in the world.
And I suppose for business owners, that's just as valid, isn't it? Because we're always trying to get inspiration in trying to change the world in some way.
Yes, I think business is a very creative arena. And I think morning pages are a great help to people in business because they give them a safe place to vent and to explore.
Now, there's also two other tools that you talk about for people to help open up their creativity. What are those?
Well, I say you're building a radio kit, and it has three tools. It has morning pages, it has artist dates, and it has walks. Now, an artist date is a once-a-week solo expedition to do something that's just fun or enchanting. And it's as if when you have morning pages you're sending, you're going, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is what I want more of, this is what I want less of. Then when you go on an artist date, you turn the dial over to receive, and you begin to have inspiration, and your level of synchronicity starts to kick up, and then the third tool is walking, and I didn't know much about this when I wrote The Artist's Way. I was in week 12, the final week, when I said, oh, P.S., go for a walk. And what I have learned since is that walking is an enormously powerful tool. It helps people to integrate the insights and the inspirations that come to them from the other two tools. So we talk about having a body of work, and we need literally to get into the body.
Through walking.
Yes, through walking.
So when if we explore those two things a little bit more, when we talk about the artist date, what are some examples of what those might be?
Oh, an artist date, you could do what I did, which is take myself to a travel bookstore and become enchanted with all of the maps of the world. I walked in there and I found an old book about Magellan, and I spent the next several years writing music about Magellan.
Really?
So an artist date can be something very simple. It doesn't have to be high art. A children's bookstore is an excellent artist date.
Does it need to be creative in that sense? Does it need to be, where you're exposing yourself to art in some way?
It doesn't have to be exposing yourself to art at all, but it can be. But it can be something as simple as going into a fabric store and looking at all the different bolts of cloth. Or I sometimes tell women, go to a hardware store.
Look at all the tools.
Yes.
And you just try and get inspiration from the environment that you're in at the time.
Well, you don't even need to get inspiration per se. I don't want people to work at the artist date. It should be something that's enjoyable. It could be a meal in a new restaurant by yourself.
And are artist dates solitary exercises?
Yes. What we're trying to do with The Artist's Way is get you to fall in love with yourself. So an artist date has two parts to it. The first part is artist, that it's something that's interesting or intriguing to you. And the second part is a date, which is that you plan it ahead of time and you sort of woo yourself.
I love that. That's a great idea. So then when we're talking about the walking, how often do you suggest walking and for how long?
Well, I usually tell people try to go twice a week.
Okay.
Try to go at least 20 minutes. And what you often find is that you walk out with a problem, but by the time you come walking back in, you have a solution.
Yeah, I know a businesswoman who will always take herself out for a walk for about half an hour at lunchtime every day just to kind of clear the decks.
Yes, it's a very powerful tool.
Yeah. And you've now launched a new website, haven't you, Julia?
Yes, we have juliacameronlive.com. And it was an inspiration that came to me from my colleague Emma Lively, with whom I sometimes write. We've written musicals together, and recently we've written 2 books together, and we've worked together for 14 years. And Emma said, you know, people can't afford to go to Santa Fe for 12 weeks.
Funny that.
To study with you. And I said, well, I used to teach in my living room. It was very intimate. And she said, let's recreate that intimacy, and I'll bring a crew and we'll film you right in your living room. So that's what we did.
Great.
You get to see my dog. You get to see my leather couches. It's very intimate.
And it's taking people through the 12-week program.
Yes.
And so you've got videos of you. What else do you have within the program?
Within the program?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, you've got is it a forum that you have as well?
Oh yes, there's a forum. People can ask questions. There are clusters of artists that get together. It's really an artistic community.
And is it mostly creatives, like in the sense of, is it writers and artists, or do you have a really broad mix of people involved?
I have a broad mix of people involved.
Well, it sounds wonderful.
I have a judge who has just written her first book. I have another judge, I seem to be long on judges, who has become a sculptor in his spare time. So I find that the walk of life that you pursue can become enlivened by working with the creativity tools, or you may find yourself embracing a new way of life.
Mm. So do you find that quite often then when people go through your program, it creates a big transformation or a transition?
Yes. What people say to me is always the same sentence: your book changed my life.
That must be quite heartening for you.
It's exciting.
I'm sure.
It's a little bit like when I go out to teach, it's like going out to see the garden.
And watching all the flowers grow.
Yes, and saying, oh, look at that seed. It became a delphinium. It became a tulip. It became a novelist.
And for those that think that creativity perhaps isn't important, what would you say to them?
I think it's something that people tell themselves to talk themselves out of their dreams.
And what is there anything that you would do or recommend to sort of help them find their dreams again?
Well, that's what the entire book is about.
Buy the book and you'll have the answer. And how do you think tapping into creativity positively benefits people?
Well, people become more cheerful. We often joke, Emma and I, that we should do Polaroids of before and after, because people, the term enlightenment is a literal term. People do get lit up, and it shows.
Now, you mentioned that a book that you've written with Emma, and it's called Prosperous Heart, is one of them, isn't it?
Yes.
Can you explain what that is?
A prosperous heart is a heart that depends for its sense of abundance not on a paycheck, but on a connection to the divine.
God, energy,
universal energy, whatever you want to call it. A prosperous heart is a heart that believes that there is enough.
And so how can we find that within ourselves, do you think, Julia?
Well, I think morning pages are a big help. And again, the prosperous heart is a whole 12-week plan. So I can't tell you in a nutshell, do this simple thing. But I can say, pick up the book and try the tools.
And within the tools, you help people explore their attitudes towards debt and money and abundance.
Yes.
And if you were just to give people one tip when it came to making them more open to prosperity in general, what would that tip be?
I would tell them to do morning pages, and I would tell them to try counting, which is keeping a little notebook of money in, money out. And we often discover that we're spending money along lines that aren't our true values. And we'll say, oh, I don't have enough money to ever go to the theater. And then we look at our accounting and we discover that we've been spending all of our theater money going to Starbucks.
Huh. Yeah.
And so you learn to channel your money along the lines of your greatest joy.
That's quite interesting. So instead of just spending blindly, we spend consciously and choose those areas in our lives that are going to give us the most pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And for anybody that's listening, I highly recommend that you go and check out Julia's site, which is at juliacameronlive.com. Is that right?
That's right.
And you can find any of Julia's books on Amazon. And we'll put a link in below in the show notes. And this book here, The Artist's Way, is definitely going to be something that you should pick up and have a look at. Thanks very much, Julia. Is there anything that you'd like to say in closing?
I'd like to say, try your morning pages and discover yourself.
Thank you very much, Julia.
Okay.